All right, what's happening, everybody? How are you? Welcome to the Ed O'Keefe Show. And we are back. Officially, we are back. It's 2022, and I think the last time we were talking was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And a lot has happened since then. So where do we begin? Well, first of all, I just want to say, for many of you, if you were a subscriber 18 months ago or 19 months ago, and some of my friends that I work out with or I'll run into, and you ask, well, Ed, what's going on? What's new? And tell me about when's the show coming back? And a lot's happened in the last 18 to 24 months as it's happened for all of us. And so one of the things that I've always wanted to do is get the show back going. But it had to make sense, and it had to make sense under the right circumstances and the right terms. And so I'm happy to be back with you to renew the conversation weekly and get going. I mean, let's kind of do a quick inventory of where I've been the last 24 months, and we'll talk about you as well. About 24 months, I think I was launching Wake Up Foods, which was a company I started, and since then have stopped. And I'll definitely fill you in on all the details behind that. COVID hit all of us in a lot of crazy ways. And for some of you who are in different states and different towns and different cities, your experience may have been different, right? Probably has been different. But one thing we could probably all agree on is it's been pretty crazy. And, the world's changed in that time frame. The world's totally changed. Let's see here. So we have for Noel and I, we're in Chicago, and Chicago has been one of the most probably restricted areas in Illinois as well. And I'm not going to go too in depth on that today. You probably hear too much, hear enough of it on a daily basis. So we won't talk too much about that. But there's been some crazy things. Like, so my Keegan, for many of you who follow me on Facebook and on Instagram, she battled what we thought was long haul COVID. And then we found out she also had Lyme disease, and then, literally has been sidelined for 14 months of sports, and is now getting back on the court. It's very interesting. That's a topic I would love to talk a little more about in a minute, kind of after I do my summary. After about 14 months of treatments with our Lyme doctor, Dr. Casey Kelly, had recommended us going to Dr. Bruce Patterson to get her cytokine levels tested. And there were still elevated cytokines. And he's put her on a drug combination, which I'll talk about. I will mention that in a minute because it's relevant to all of us and all of us being aware of what options are available during these crazy times. That is starting to show, I'm recording this on January 18th of 2022. That is starting to show promise. And so we're super, super hopeful on this end. And it's been, one of the quotes I've said is, I want my daughter to be healed tomorrow, but I never want to forget what it's like to be, to have a sick child. And the reason is because there's just a level of humbleness and I don't know if empathy is I think so. I think empathy of your heart just goes out to people a lot in a different way than before it. And the other thing I just say from a personal note is life's not, when you have a sick kid, there's a kid who's battling with something, and I'm sure many of you parents out there can relate to this, is life is just not what it was. And so for me, didn't realize I was going to talk too much about this, but I'll share some stuff about this. The hardest part over in 2021 specifically was there was a long period of time. So Keegan got COVID probably, let me just take you back a minute. So probably in, I think it was, my wife's going to have better, she'll remind me. Nola always reminds me of the details a little bit. I think it was like October when we were in Indiana at our lake home, and we had gone. They had gone in the woods, and then we had also, I think they went in the corn stalks for around that time, and um, she'd gotten COVID like a week or two after that, right? So some of the details are a little blurry to me. And then she got strep right after she got COVID. So it was like a triple punch. Now, what we didn't know and what we don't know is if she got a tick bite during that time frame, or if she had dormant Lyme disease, um, which then sparked the immune system to just go into full blown Lyme attack and acute Lyme, which turned into chronic Lyme, but also had the undertone or the overarching uh, COVID, which then was turned into long haulers COVID, or was long haulers COVID. So the way I describe it for a lot of people of like what that was like for Keegan was, it was kind of like having a kid who had mono all the time, but also woke up every day with like the worst hangover you could possibly had. And then also had brain function of somebody who was going through like post-concussion syndrome. That's the best way I can describe it. It was very interesting at the time. And very interesting. I think it's probably a light word, but it's very hard to articulate it because, and then during that time frame, you're searching and searching and searching, frustrated with the medical establishment. You're frustrated because you're seeking out and finding a lot of great doctors who were on the cutting edge of say COVID, as well as Lyme. And then you're also meeting probably more doctors that you're just completely unimpressed with, is probably my kind word of putting things. And so, you're spending a lot of money out of pocket. And then we flew out to Mexico, and my buddy Ed Clay's hospital and Scotty Nelson's hospital, Chipsa Hospital, where we got Keegan stem cells. We got her 5 days of immune boosting treatments. And so, did that help? We really don't know. Like, there was temporary improvements, but I think if your cytokines, we were understanding this, are still firing off on a daily basis and sending white blood cells and the immune response to solve a problem that might not necessarily be there anymore, which Dr. Bruce Patterson talks super in depth. It's great man, and his clinics are doing, or his doctors, his crew of doctors are just doing amazing work. One of the drugs they have Keegan on is Marivoc. I want to make sure I'm saying that right, Marivoc. And the way I describe it is that Marivoc is designed to turn off the cell tower signal that keeps sending out to recruit reinforcements to get rid of a virus that necessarily is not active or still there. And forgive me if I'm a little giving you the the 101 version. I always like saying that because if I misspeak a little bit, at least you get the gist of what I'm trying to say, rather than me trying to be scientifically totally 1,000% accurate in every statement. It's been a lot of different data, but one of the ways they explained it, and the reason I share some of this now is because this could be utilized. This protocol can be used in acute, in chronic, and in acute attack. So if you have the virus in the acute phase, this can be helpful, as well as long haulers. Okay, and then they also believe it is very vital and important for say Lyme disease and diseases like that, where the immune system goes into a fight or flight and is constantly fighting this virus or bacteria or whatever it might be, that it thinks that it's got to keep sending reinforcements. And so one of the ways Dr. Bruce Patterson described it, now the interview that I highly recommend if any of this interests you, if it probably doesn't interest you, you may have already turned off the this recording or this show, but It's an interview where Dr. Bruce Patterson and his partner, who I'm forgetting the guy's name off the top of my head, but um, they were on the Dr. Drew show on Facebook. Now, this was pretty cool because Dr. Drew, I always knew him from I think it was Loveline with Adam Carolla, and so I never saw this side of him. And it's really awesome to watch him interview such great doctors who are doing so much to treat patients right now in the middle of this pandemic, and hopefully at the near end of this pandemic, because they're just doing amazing things. Now, one of the things they said was it's very similar to like, why does long haulers keep happening? And what happens is, I brought up the term cell tower, like it keeps sending out a cell tower signal to get reinforcements. And the way they described it was, imagine you're going on a corner and you're going to get attacked, or someone you love is going to get attacked. And so what happens is, there's three bad guys on the corner, which is the virus in this analogy. And so you pull out your cell phone and you call three of your friends, and they come with their guns and their ammo and bazooka to eliminate the threat. Okay, but it blows up the corner for that night, and till they eliminate the threat. And so there's some collateral damage, and it's there, but the threat is gone. Okay, you tracking me? The threat's gone. But the next day, your cell phone calls three more people. And those three more people come up and they blow up the corner, and there's collateral damage, but there's no threat there. And then the next day, the immune system sends out a cell town, like your cell phone signal goes out and gets three more people. And that keeps happening. And so these cytokines, which is the immune system's response to get rid of a virus in your body, keeps sending reinforcements. And what happens is then you have this chronic inflammation in the body, whether it's in the brain, which a lot of times you hear people talk about brain fog, or that like my head is hurting. It's like, this is a very common trait. Like my head is just pounding. That was very, very common for Keegan, where like she'd be bending over to pick something up and she just couldn't do it because her head would feel like it had like a jackhammer in it, and it was chronic. Right. And so the Marivac, my understanding of it is to turn that cell phone tower off. So we're about 4 weeks into that treatment. So I'll keep you guys updated. The other thing she's on is Lipitor, which is a very low dose statin. And I don't have the best explanation of the mechanism of action of that, so I'm not going to go into that right now. I think it's really just to clean up the endothelial parts of the cell, which get damaged or have junk in it, and which is reducing its ability to perform and get the body taking the nutrients in and getting those cells functioning properly. I'll look that up, and I'll make sure I'll come back with a better explanation. So that's been kind of our life. We are it still is our life, but so that's been a big part of 2021. Good news in 2021, my son Michael qualified to go downstate here in Illinois for golf. That was exciting for us. Great experience as a sophomore. He's only been playing golf for 27 months at that time. And even like this weekend, we're heading down to Florida for him to compete again. So I'll keep you updated on that. Starting and stopping a company. Now that was really interesting in the sense that I'm using a very light word, being interesting. So started Wake Up Foods in 2020. Right, literally at March 16th was when we launched, and that was at the beginning of all the shutdowns. I don't like utilizing the pandemic as a way of saying why a business failed. I would say that the unforeseen shipping and handling and just pure getting supplies to customers was definitely something that there was a lot of unforeseen things that just couldn't be explained, couldn't be avoided. The only way to avoid in the hindsight, and I'll do a separate podcast on this because I think there's a lot of business lessons in it, is that if you're going into a business and you're starting a business, and the math of the business is not adding up, and the pathway of getting there is going to cost too much money, I would probably advise myself to not go in the business. Like, just, hey, if that means you got to wait 10 months, 12 months to launch it, then wait. If that means that it's not a viable model, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That doesn't mean it's a failure. It means that you're intelligently looking at the objective data and making decisions based on that. And I'll go more in depth on that on a separate podcast that we'll be launching here probably in the next month or so, because there's a lot of lessons in that. I get a lot of questions about supplements. I get like the supplement business, the health food business. And while I'm not actively in that market anymore, there's a lot of just in the trenches lessons that could really help people avoid a lot of problems. And trust me, over the last 15 years of being in health supplements, before that 10 years working with dentists, showing them how to grow their dental offices, there's a lot of lessons that if you can navigate some of these things properly, you can grow a nice successful business. I know e-com is super competitive right now. The CPMs, which is the cost per 1,000 impressions on Facebook, which is what would be your ad buys and stuff, they're just high. And so if you're not, what I would say is that the businesses that I consult with in e-commerce, the ones that are most successful or are successful and have positive cash flow, because that's usually where the troubles lie, even if on paper you're profitable, they really have a 30, 60, 90-day view at their profit and their value ladder and their value of their customers. It's so much easier to get capital if you can show that. It's so much easier to enjoy your business if you have positive cash flow. And so the beauty of some of those lessons led me, when I was coming out of that, say 2021, I made a commitment that I was going to make some smart pivots, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I'm not like, I was going to do some consulting, which I still do some consulting. And I was trying to look at where's the puck moving in the e-commerce, in the product businesses, in the information businesses, because that's kind of where I've lived the last 25 years. So I'll give a couple definitions just for my friends who are like, well, Ed, I don't really know what you're talking about on information business. So if you teach somebody like how to do something, that's an information business. So when I was in dentistry, I was teaching them how to attract patients. When my nephew Michael Kano, his company, they're strength and conditioning for athletes around the country, and they work directly with coaches and athletic departments on building out like those say 8-week, 12-week, 6-month game plans. That's an information business. You're exchanging information for money, and if you can leverage it by doing a one, which is say I'm one, to many, which right now I'm doing that through a podcast. There's many people that will download this. It's me doing it one on many, right? So 1 to 10, 1 to 100, 1 to 10,000. And that's the beauty about the internet. It's the beauty about things like YouTube. It's the beauty about things of like Spotify, where if you have a message that people are attracted to, that helps people, that inspires them, that solves a problem, you have the ability of getting that out there very, very efficiently and fast. Whereas like writing a book, I totally recommend writing a book. We're currently writing a book. I was thinking about it this morning about what are the other books I'd like to write in my lifetime. Those are one-to-many opportunities, right? However, okay, so we're going back. All right, well, I want to go down this trail a little bit. If you're out there, so like right now, Roland Frasier and I are working a lot with consultants, coaches, and like agency owners or service providers, showing them how to use consulting to get paid while also building partnerships and getting equity or recurring revenue with clients. The challenge that so many people have when they're thinking like, hey, do I have an expertise or wisdom that would justify me getting paid? And I'll do, again, this is like a podcast that's coming out, and we have a lot of stuff that's already loaded that's really, really good. I think I have an interview with Roland that's just outstanding. I interview a guy, Kent Clothier, today, who's in the real estate market, teaching people how to invest in real estate. We're going to talk about that specific topic. We're actually going to talk about handling adversity and, what do you do when everything goes south, and how do you like rebuild yourself back up? But where I was going with that was, if you can solve a problem and you can identify a pain that you can be a solution to, then you can get paid for your insight. And the fastest way to do some of this stuff is to launch a podcast or start putting stuff up on YouTube or on Facebook, and create a method that people can pay you. And that's some of the stuff we teach. But anyhow, when I was coming out of Wake Up Foods, I kind of made a decision that I was going to go into higher margin things, because information in and of itself, like, it doesn't really cost me anything to create this. It doesn't cost the cost of goods sold. The cost of producing it is very, very low. So your margins might be 10 times cost, 20 times cost. And what that means is that you have now money. You have money that's coming from the revenue to invest in your marketing, to invest in your advertising, to invest in improving your show or your content or your product, whatever it might be. Whereas in food, the margins are 2.5 to 1. And at times for us, like during COVID, it was like 2 to 1. I mean, or even worse, because of just the cost of delay on stuff. We were spending more money on shipping than we had projected and or should have. Delays at like FedEx places where they held $30,000 worth of product for 3 days. Well, then all that product's gone. So then you got to replenish that. Like, that was a very disastrous, those are like very disastrous type of things that when your margins are so small, you can't afford those things. Does that make sense? Whereas like information products, boom, you have big margins. Supplements in general are really high margin businesses. It's very competitive, but they're high margin. Like, a bottle of supplements might cost $5, $7. High side is $8 to $10. But you can sell those for 40, 59, $89 if they're really super high quality. So those are really good margins. Gives you money to like go advertise and create things, right? So anyhow, like, when I came back out of it, I was like, all right, we're going to start doing that. But I didn't want to just jump right back into the supplement business, because I had done that for 11, 12 years. And, that's probably that's not necessarily the best advice. Good advice would be like, well, where do you already know where are you already making money? And we had money coming in through our supplement business. We still do. It's not a lot, but it's still there. So to refire that up would be the most logical sequence. You always look at, this is a big tip worth writing down, is like, you always got to look where the money's already flowing, or where there's already profits sitting in front of you that you're not necessarily tapping into. And it's not going to cost you any money to get going. And so one of the things I did was I took on a little bit of consulting, and then I started mentoring under Tom Breeze, learning YouTube ads. I love Tom. He's a great teacher, great YouTube ad buyer. The model for me was not, I spent 4 months working the model, taking on some clients, learned a lot. But I was dealing a lot with health brands, and a lot of those guys are breaking even at, their margins, like at break even, their costs of going on YouTube. And the reason I want YouTube, everybody, just so you know, is that Facebook was going through a phase where, and still might be, where the CPMs, like the cost is so high to where it used to be, that YouTube was going to be a channel that still is a channel that you can grow very successfully a business in it. But I only wanted to work on performance bases. Like I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I can't wake up and think, okay, I'm working $1 per hour job. It just doesn't work in my brain well. It's okay if that works for you, but for me, it just doesn't really work well. I don't get motivated off of it. And for YouTube, the way I had it structured, I'm sure there's other guys that are better at it than me. It wasn't getting me where I wanted to be. Okay. And I can unpack that more, but that's probably enough for now. So I reached out to Travis Sago. Travis is a guy who, he's got a great Facebook group called $1 Million Mojo, maybe. And Travis teaches how to sell high ticket offers, like high ticket products. So 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, without ever getting on the phone with people. Okay. That was very attractive to me because, again, it's like one to many. I don't want to be on phone calls with people all day long, not unless you're already paying me, right? I will get on a call with somebody who's, willing to invest 10 grand with, like, me and Roland with their consulting for equity, or if they're interested in consulting with myself personally. If they have a 5-minute question, but like a 30-minute, I'm not here to convince people on why they should be in it. Our marketing's designed to do that. These types of videos are designed to do that. There's an art and science to it. There's a structure to it. We're pretty good at it. And so I wanted to let the marketing do the work for it. And so I was really attracted to what Travis was doing. And Travis, I had a couple questions for him because it's kind of like, hey, so I'm 45 years old. Think about this, guys, right? So I'm 46 now, but at the time I was 45. And I was like, look, let's say, God willing, I live, and I got 20 more years of good work ahead of me. I wanted to pick a roadmap that I could apply to my passions. And I wanted to do it. And I wanted to mentor under somebody who was proven. Tom Breeze was totally proven, right? So Tom's amazing. I couldn't recommend him more. The model wasn't fitting my personality. Some of the things about YouTube, like the way my brain works, like I had to work twice as hard with just some of the organizational stuff that, sure, I could have hired somebody, but we weren't getting the results that I wanted fast enough. And so
it's 10 o'clock.
So that was a little bit, that's more me, right? So don't worry about that. But so when I reached out to Travis, I was like, hey man, you seem really, 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 like you're doing really well. But more importantly, I've always loved your trainings. And then I said, the third thing I said to him was, hey, what do you really do? Like, I know you do like how to sell people on the back end, right? But I don't understand how you're partnering with people. And for me, that was very interesting because as many of you may know, like starting a business from scratch is like, it's the hardest part. Like, because there's so much friction to getting live. That friction creates, you lose time, you lose money, you lose opportunity, and it might not work, right? So you have all those things going against you. And human nature, by the way, working with clients now, we got, a ton of clients in our coaching group. And then when I do one-on-one coaching, everybody wants to talk about where their new thing is. And we talk about it. Like, it's okay. Like, it's good to have your new thing that you want to work on. And clarity and direction is sometimes the most powerful thing of a one-day consultation. But what Travis really punched me in the face about, in a good way, like in a nice way, he's like, Ed, everybody's ignoring their existing customers. And he's like, so what we do is we will send out, he's like, he's got an agency, but he calls it a firm, really smart, because it's not an agency. You don't pay an upfront fee. Where they'll take like a high ticket offer, somebody who's already making sales and it has a high ticket offer that's already been proven, and they'll do a direct mail campaign because most people don't do direct mail, to lead generate those customers and sell them. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I ever heard, because I don't know, I'll take you guys all back. When I was in Dennis Profits, was my company, we were doing a ton of direct mail. That's how I grew the business. I'd run trade magazine ads, and then I'd run and I would get these mailing addresses from leads, and then I would direct mail them a 20-page sales letter with an audio tape. And I did it all myself, right? It was pretty crazy until we grew. And then that was my first business that actually was super successful. And what was fun about that was I was like, oh, this makes total sense. Because right now, like the least cluttered place of anyone's life is their mailbox, not their email box, not their cell phone. It's their mailbox, the least cluttered place in the world, right? So sending out a direct mail piece could be one of the best investments you ever make, you know? Hint, hint, right? For some of you guys. And I was like, dang. So I started working under Travis, started learning. I became, joined one of his masterminds with two of his partners, and I'll talk about them in a second. Is and I really fell in love with this. And so one of the people I was talking to was Roland Frasier, and I was like, hey, Roland, I started this new thing where I'll spend the money on the direct mail. If you have customers coming in, like, what are you doing with these Epic Challenge buyers? And he's like, well, we're not really doing anything after they go through the webinar to join the higher level program. I said, well, can I do some direct mail for you? And I'll pay for everything and I'll just do it. I'll sell them. I'll do everything. And so what happened was we spent like $2,600. And when I say we, I'm talking about me on direct mail. Travis was like, well, Ed, you're like my first student who's actually done direct mail. It's very easy to get people to commit to you doing direct mail for them because they're not doing it, right? They're not doing it. It was very intuitive to me because I was like, I've done this. We did this with Marine D3 in our supplement business, mailed close to 1 million direct mail pieces in that business. So I kind of always like going where people aren't going and just being like, okay, well, if I can master this, then I'll own it all because no one's going to do the hard work to do that, So where's that slight edge, It kind of goes to that a little bit. So anyway, we mailed about $2,600 of direct mail. So I paid for postage, printing. I wrote the sales copy myself. We had a simple lead generation method that we would send them to. I think we generated like 60 something thousand in revenue. I got 30% of that. So what is that? Is that like, is that 10% would be six? So like, 16,000, I think of what it came out to, something around that, So $2,500 investment, 16,000 in commissions. Their company got 60,000, and Roland was like, "Hey, man, what else?" So I want to talk about one of our principles. So that me reaching out to Roland and doing that, and investing in his company on my behalf, I invested in it, and then implementing the process is then what sparked conversations about consulting for equity, and then we're now doing that. So, which by the way, if any of you guys are interested, if you're a high ticket coach, expert, author, consultant, agency owner, entrepreneur who wants to do consulting, get paid, and get recurring revenue with partnerships, it's the best model, and it's Roland's model. He designed it. He lives it. He does it. He's got like 30, 40 partners, and he's got equity in all these businesses, but they all started with partners or hiring him, and it's a great model. So. Why do I want to share all that? Oh, what I want to share, this is a big one. And we're going to wrap this podcast up today because this is a big one. So one of the things I want to share with you though, was when I was coming through that in 2021, trying to figure out like what my next thing was. There's a couple laws and principles that I always try and live by. One is speed, but speed is hard when you don't have clarity. Okay. Just so you know that, my book, Art of Time Collapsing, it's so much easier to go fast when you have clarity. And so how do you not know how to move fast when you're struggling with clarity? And so one of the things I did was, when we did a little deal with Roland, I said to him, well, who else can I help in your circle of partners? Who else can I help? And I had talked to probably like 3 to 5 guys that are really smart guys. And I must not be good at saying, hey, I'll pay for the postage. I'll pay for the copywriting. I'll do all the selling for you. And you're just going to send me commission checks and I'll pay for the postage. And guys still were like, well, what's the catch? There was no catch. It was like, if you got buyers coming through after they go through your funnel, I will then send them a direct mail piece and then I'll make you money. And guys, it was just interesting. And And Travis would probably listen to this and say, well, Ed, you probably were doing it wrong. And he's probably right. Like I probably was explaining it wrong. There's a weird thing with people that if they're not doing it and they think someday they're going to do it, or they think you're going to, like, it's just a very scarcity mentality that, that if you don't have a scarcity mentality and you do have a lot of book buyers or challenge buyers or buyers coming through and you're selling how to make money or something like that with a high ticket that's proven, and you want me to run a test with you, just reach out to me. I'm happy to run a test with you. My gosh. But one of the big principles I want to share with you here at the end is just when Roland was like, hey, I'll introduce you to people, I made a commitment to start getting in more environments with Roland and his partners. And how much deal flow came out of that? Not a ton initially. But what I want to share with you was what was super important for me was that I put myself in the environment where people were having success. And that part is literally the secret to getting out of a rut or getting momentum in your life when you're trying to gain clarity. See, like you can't get clarity sitting behind your computer, and you can't gain clarity just from meditating and sitting in a room. And there's probably people that are listening that will disagree with me, but a lot of clarity comes because you still got to take action. You got to move. And so sometimes you need to get outside your circle in order to get a different vibe in a different higher level, like whether it's vibration, whether it's the right people in the right time, synchronicity starts working for you. But it was very important for me when I got out of my house and started going to seminars again. It allowed me, after like a year and a half with Wake Up Foods of just getting my butt kicked, it really allowed me to recalibrate my worldview that things are not bad because that business didn't succeed. And I'm not a bad person because the business didn't succeed. And nobody's really to blame other than, I guess, myself and like I take total responsibility for it. But meaning like there's people having success right now. So we have a choice like, hey, we're going to jump in and see how we can serve and support people that are having success and how we can either do direct mail for them, how we can either be a consultant for them, or it just expands our mind through osmosis that like, look, the world didn't end, you just had a rough run. So we're now out of that. It's kind of like when I go to CrossFit to work out, there's a lot of times I don't want to be in the gym. And so the rule in that is just, you got to get to the gym. Why? Because there's people there. And when you're there, there's an osmosis that occurs that just kind of ignites a light that gets you going, right? So anyhow, hopefully that was helpful for you. I'm really excited to be back, sharing a little bit. I think the core focus of this, hopefully you'll stick around and join me throughout these and share it with friends, but is, sometimes we're going to talk about business. Sometimes it's going to be about personal growth. Sometimes it's going to be about random stuff that's going on in our society that I just want to have a voice on. And you may not always agree with my voice. That's totally cool with me. But we need people, at least this is how I feel like, I need to stay connected with the people that are in my life. And sometimes it's hard to do that literally every day. So the podcast is one way to stay connected and keep people updated as to how we do things. It's another way to let people know, hey, if you want to work together, this is how we do it, and if you just need, some support, hopefully this podcast could be something that is a boost of encouragement on a weekly basis, or maybe we'll do it more as time goes on. But it's also good for me to just share because I get a lot of good vibes from people, and I love hearing your feedback. So hey, so that's it. If you like this episode, or if you're excited I'm back, let me know. I I get some fuel off comments and support. And yeah, I'm thinking of putting a couple like even small little events together this year, like we used to run them. And you'll hear probably our episode sponsorships of what we're doing with Consulting for Equity. Roland and I are doing some really cool things over there, helping a lot of people. Like we just started our program like 10 days ago, or no, 12 days ago officially. And people are just getting gangbuster results. So if that works, cool. If not, too, that's no pressure on that at all. Check out Dr. Gosh, I'm going to screw up his name. I want to say Dr. Barrett. But I'll make sure we get you the information. Hopefully I'll have him on the show soon too, because he's just amazing. I told my wife, I'm like, man, if this works with Keegan, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to get his information in the hands of so many people, because we're in all those Facebook groups of long haulers, Lyme, and you just see the lack of good quality, reliable information. I have a strong opinion about this, guy. So if you're on my podcast and you don't like my opinions, you could opt out of some of these, but I would challenge you to actually listen to them. But just a lack of the focus and creativity towards therapeutic interventions for people has been very disheartening, and to see the squelching of drugs that are getting results for people. It's just so hard to get the information out. And I don't want to make this a conspiracy theory or blame podcast. So I'm gonna let you go on that. So that's it. Hey, most of my work related stuff and the new books and the time collapsing book that we're going to get relive, you just go to my one website that I'm going to be utilizing for most everything to be our center point is going to be edokeefelive.com. That's edokeefelive.com. If you head over there and a couple links don't work, please forgive me for a day or two. We're getting a lot together. And then consultingforequity.io. You can email me at ed@consultingforequity.io. Put in the subject line podcast or CFE Masterclass, and I'll get you all the details. So that's it. Love you guys. Have an amazing day. And yeah, let me know. All right, peace out.
Hey, it's Ed again. Hey, one last thing before you leave. First, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to the show. If you love this show or this episode and know someone who can benefit, please copy it and share it with them. Also, if you can do me a favor and leave a quick review wherever you listen to these podcasts the most, whether it's Apple, Spotify, etc., it really will help us get the message out to more people. That's it. Thanks again, and make it a great day.